channel guys. So from today onwards, I'm starting the SQL Server DBA series in which we will going to discuss what is the role of SQL Server DBA, how the DBA works, how the SQL Server, how to create the logins, and what are the roles and what are the daily tasks of the DBAs. Okay, so I will create a series one by one, and it will take up. There will be around 40 to 50 videos on this in this series, in which I will cover each topic as a deep. Okay, so before going forward, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rana, and I have 5 years of experience as a SQL Server DBA. So before starting the series, first of all, this is very important to understand who is the DBA and what are the roles and responsibilities of the DBA. Okay, so for this, first you need to understand what the DBA means. DBA means the database administrator. What is the role of what is the responsibilities and what are the roles of the DBA? So basically, the DBA responsibilities are to manage the database and to maintain the database system. Okay, so that the data should be available in time. There should be a integrity in the data and to enhance the security of the data. Like it does not get accessed by some somehow. It does not get the data does not get leaked by somewhere. Okay, who can access the data and what the permission what the permission should be given to whom. This must be decided by the DB. Moving forward, what was the we will continue to understand where do the DBS actually work. So if you see whenever the requirements of the data, where the data is very critical, okay, where in the industries where you are storing the data and that data are critical, there the DBS works. Okay, there will be the requirement of the DBS. Like in the IT companies, there must be a requirement of the DBS. In the bank and in the financial institutions, like in the banks, the role of the DBA is very the DBA demand is too much because in the banks the security of the data is very crucial, and same in the financial institute as well. Going forward, in the healthcare sectors, also the DBA demands are very much in the e-commerce platform and in the government agencies. Also, the DBAs work. Okay, what are the daily tasks of the DBAs? The daily tasks of the DBAs are like installing and configuring the SQL Server, like for working on the suppose you want to store the data. Okay, suppose you have a small business, e-commerce business, and you want that where the customer is coming into your shop, they must have the entry. Okay, so instead of entering into them into your notebook or into your file, you want them to store online. Okay, so storing them on an online will require the server. So at the basic level, at the root level, what is the where your database will get stored? You will store that data into a database, and that database should be into somewhere, and that database will be into SQL Server. Understood? So for storing the data, you require database, and the database will be into your server, and that server need to be installed and configured, and that will be done by the database. So this is the first daily task of the DBS. The second is monitoring the performance. Suppose you had entered the customer information. Okay, so what monitoring the performance, that suppose you want that in each customer should come and logins into your website, and like what they are purchasing, you want the history of that. Okay, so monitoring the performance, whether your websites are working not, whether the data are integrating data or not, whether the search operations are working correctly or not. Okay, for that we require the monitoring of the databases. The third one is managing backup and restore. Suppose if there will be any disaster thing. So for that we should have some backup and we should know the restore policy. Different companies follow the different backup policy. Like there are if we go further and I will explain you what are the types of backup. But meanwhile, you have only to understand that if to reduce the loss of data, we should take a backup of the data in every like in a periodic way, and then if any disaster came, then we so that if any disaster came, then we can restore that data. The fourth one is implementing the security measures. Okay, so that no one likes SQL Server. If your SQL Server is not secure, then anyone can access your server and can make any changes into your databases on your data. Okay, so for this you need to implement the security. The last one is scheduling job and maintenance plan. Scheduling jobs means suppose if you want that the database backup should not happen manually, it should be you can create the job and weekly or monthly on the monthly basis it will automatically take the backup of the databases. Okay, so these are the daily tasks of the database. Now, moving forward, what are the key responsibilities? Okay, so the key responsibilities of the DBAs are to ensure that the databases, the data into the databases are integrated in form of integrated, manage the user access and security, same like no one else can access your no outsider can access your database. For this, you need to manage your user access and security. Which person should grant which access? It is decided by the DBA only. The third one is monitor and optimize performance. Means how your database, how your server will work, like how much CPU it will consume, how much memory it will consume of the total operating system. It's decided, it should be decided by the DBA only. How to handle the fourth one is how to handle the backup and disaster recovery. Like if the data is very critical and you don't want the data loss, then how the backup should be decided. Like if the data is very much critical, then you should always keep the data backup weekly or weekly. If the data is not non-critical, then you can schedule the backup monthly or 2 weeks after every 2 weeks. Okay. The fourth one is maintain high availability. High availability basically, if you suppose if there is a failure of one server, then other server should be available at the same time. Okay, means there should not be any performance. The end user should not get impacted if there will be any failover on one server. Okay, we will understand these points later on also during our further discussion. Going forward, what is the difference between the DBA and developer? At this point, like this is a very common question. What are the difference? If we talk about the DBA and if we talk about the developer, database developer, then what will be the difference? Basically the difference between the developer and DBA is that the developer decide which table should be added into the database, what will be the models that should be created. Okay, suppose if you have a e-commerce website, then there should be a models like logins, users models, user table. Okay, there should be a user table, there should be a category table, there should be some like what are the objects you want to sell. Okay, what are the categories of them. So these all things are depend on developer. They will decide how the table will work, how the table will create, what the entry should be into that table. These all are defined by the developer. These all come into the developer. But what the DBA will do, DBA will focus on the database health and the availability. Like suppose you have done all the developer have created the database, have added the tables into it. Now maintaining that database is the responsibility of the DBA now. That it should be available. The database should not be in an offline state. These all should be taken care by the DBA. Basically, developer focus on the writing the applications code, how this application work, like how it will fetch the data from the database. This should be done by the developer. But the the application should work is depend it should be controlled by the DBA. Okay, so DBA ensure that smooth data flow and developer ensure the DBA how the application will function. Okay, moving forward, what are the skills required to become a DBA? Then you should have a strong, if you want to become a SQL Server DBA, then you should have a strong SQL knowledge. And if you want to become like another DBA like Oracle, Postgres, and all, then you have the domain knowledge of that particular database. Okay, now understanding of the backup and restore, how the backup work, how to take the backup, how to restore that backup, it should be essential. Knowledge of these should be essential, and familiarity with the monitoring tools. There are some monitoring tools which should be integrated with the data with the server, so that if there should be anything happen, like if their SQL services are in a stop mode, okay, then you are not able to connect with the any with the server. Okay, so for this we used to integrate the monitoring tools. Some monitoring tools are like the data log tools. Okay, so by this they continuously log into the server and check if there are any databases are online or offline. Okay, so these all performance should be done by the monitoring tool. So you don't you don't have the proper good understanding of it, but you have the familiarity with this monitoring tool, so that you can check if some services are stopped. Then you can check from that what are the services are stopped. So basic knowledge of the monitoring tool should be required. Then the fourth requirement is that troubleshooting and problem solving. Suppose if there is some issues, like there is a disk drive which get usually get full capacity, which usually get fed. So you have to understand why it is getting what we can do so that it cannot happen again and again. Okay, so troubleshooting, and suppose if there is some problem in your database, and it is like the services are getting stopped each time. So you need to check what are the other services that is impacting the other SQL services to get into stopped state. So these all are the troubleshooting and problem solving skills that you have to, and it comes you have to understand and it comes from your experience only. Okay, and the last one is security and the access control. You need to understand that if there is a developer rule, then which security, which access need to be granted to that user. Okay, so basically in companies they raise the SR and they usually ask that they want businesses permissions, but you should also have understanding which permission should be granted to which one. Okay, which individuals. So these all are the topics that I have covered, the skills required and all this. So what are the summary of all this? Is DBA is a very crucial role and for data security and the availability, and it plays as a central role in the managing and maintaining the databases. So these are the topics that I covered today. In my next video, I will tell you how to install the SQL Server, what is the SSMS, how SSMS looks like. Okay, so we will discuss about this in my next video. Okay, so see you in next video. Thanks for watching this video.